Yo, what's up guys? I'm No Bedsheets here, and today I'm going to talk about a game that I just recently finished that I've been enjoying a lot. I've been on this RPG kick lately. I've played Final Fantasy IX and Final Fantasy 13, and today we are going to talk about Final Fantasy 13, probably the most controversial Final Fantasy out on the market ever, as far as I know. I remember playing that game when I was young, thinking it was absolutely incredible, and then realizing my camera's out of focus for some reason. I remember playing that game as a child and realizing that it was super fun, but it wasn't Final Fantasy X, and I was kind of looking forward to that because I had missed Final Fantasy XI, and I was waiting for the excitement of 13. I didn't know anything about 12 at the time. So, or whichever one, there was a remake that came out of either 11 or 12, I forget, called the Zodiac Age. But, I remember playing 13 and thinking it was awesome. It was great. I didn't understand a lick or anything about the story. I didn't know what was happening, but I enjoyed the gameplay and I enjoyed what was happening. But I remember the discussion online and reviews online being that it was not Final Fantasy, and then it was lacking a lot. Specifically that it was very linear in its progression and its routes and everything you did in the game. But then I remembered going back to Final Fantasy X, Final Fantasy IX even, Final Fantasy VII, all of them were relatively linear, and the scope of the world was still very, like, tight, if that makes sense. And it, of course, it's linear and then it expands, and you may say, well, no, Final Fantasy VII, at the time, you leave Midgar, you get out into the open world. Yes, but you're still very much, like, stuck in you can only go in one specific direction, right? There's not much you can do beyond that. And so I remember hearing the complaints of 13 and thinking, like, what is wrong with people? You know, and now cut to 14, 15, 16, where everyone is, or 15 and 16, where it is still, like, linear in that nature. And I think it was just part of an evolution of the series that people didn't really understand at the time. But playing it now, I can confidently say that that game holds up. It does have some flaws. There's a specific part in that game, midway through, before you get to the open world, where you are on an airship, or you're attacking a government facility on an airship, and it is the longest stretch of that game, but like where you're just fighting and fighting and fighting and progressing, fighting and progressing to get to this one boss. That part of the game really sort of dried me out a little bit, where I slowed down in my progress and pushing forward. Typically, each day I would do 1 or 2 chapters within the game. But when I got to there, it took me a couple days. And then, of course, I got to the open world section part of the game, where it's very easy to just breeze through that and get through that because of the way it's stylized and dynamic. I didn't know. I never beat the game, actually. When I was a kid, I only got to, like, maybe chapter 3 or 4. But I never beat the game, actually, and when I beat the game, I didn't know you unlock, like, an in-game version of the game, where you can go back and do quests in the open world and explore and do all those different things, which is really cool if I was a younger person who had just who had saved up money to buy the game and was continuing to play it, because there's so much more content to check out and, like, in-game stuff to do, I assume, if you really, like, want to focus in on that, you know. And so I also remember having the strategy guide, so I don't know why I didn't succeed in completing the game when I was younger. But I want to talk about the story. There is these characters who are branded Lassie, which is basically you get this cool tattoo, and everyone, it's kind of akin to, like, Salem witch trials. I actually think that's probably what they based the game off of. It's like what it would look like in a fantasy world, like a high fantasy world with the witch trials. And it's about how those characters are meant to sort of defy this fate that's been put upon them, but also they can't defy it, but also they try to defy it, but in the end they end up just making things come true. But, you know, destiny and shit stops them from doing that. There's a lot of beautiful moments. I remember when I was young, once again, the moment in a game where I first got, like, an emotional pull was probably 13. Where Snow and his wife I forget her name, Sarah, are flying on a bike, and some beautiful music by, I forget her name, but it's a very famous artist, starts playing. And I'm just like watching this and I'm like, this is beautiful. I remember this scene in Final Fantasy, the opening credits in Final Fantasy X, that just absolutely blew my mind. This game, and same in Final Fantasy IX. This game just doubles up on that and triples on top of that and just goes crazy with the visuals and the storytelling and the graphics. And the graphics and everything still hold up, except their fingers. If you're replaying that game, look at their fingers. That's like the only thing they cared to not model distinctively. I remember the hair being a very like big thing in the games, because back in the day, a lot of games would just give females short hair because it's hard to model long hair. So when their hair is moving around and adjusting and everything like that, that game came out like really, I think in 2000s, not early 2000s, a bit of like late 2000s, but like varying enough quality to around like the Gears of War quality of games, and Halo and Resistance and Killzone type games, and that game was very visually stunning. If you go back and look at those games, maybe they don't hold up as much, but if you go back to Final Fantasy 13, I can confidently say today that holds up. And of course, like I was saying about the story, it's interesting. It's very like a typical RPG storyline, but there's a lot more character driven moments. Spoilers for anyone hasn't played it, but there's a moment where a character who realizes he has to kill one of the other main party members to succeed in his goal. And the way they play it off and do the cutscenes and the different things like that, and the way they make it look, and the emotional pull and gravity of that situation was like nothing I'd ever seen in the past. And it really was a testament to the game. And to have that game be kind of just shit on in the past, and still to this day, is crazy to me. That game, the worst thing I think going on in that game is how you can basically auto combat the entire game. But in a way, later on in the game, you do have to start kind of varying up what you're going to do, changing your paradigms, which is the main thing you're going to do, changing up your characters' roles in the middle of fights, which does add a level of like interaction and strategy to the gameplay. And I like that. I like, oh, well, let me start off as a synergist and a saboteur to debuff and buff my characters, and have someone on cure, creating those paradigms. It creates a very simple gameplay loop that I really enjoy. I like the leveling up system. It's just another spear grid. But to think that game was shit on so badly, and now I go back and I played 10, and 10 holds up, but it doesn't. It still has these like kind of moments of cringe and just like linearity and things that I don't enjoy. But weirdly enough, I go to 13 and I'm like, oh wow, the graphics hold up beautifully, the gameplay holds up beautifully. Well, maybe the gameplay is the issue, but like I don't know. I'm gonna go back and play 10. Don't worry. I know I said a controversial thing. Everyone loves 10. I'm gonna go back and play it, but I want to play 13.2 and 13.3 also. Just an interesting observation. I wonder if 13 came out now, in the context of like the world and like where games are now, how it would be received. Considering 16 just got released, I haven't played 16, but it seems rather linear and very different gameplay, right? Like there's no turn-based strategy in that. So I would like to hear you guys' opinions. Like I said, I'm Bedsheets. I appreciate you guys coming into the video and watching to the end. If you got here, just let you know that not only are you gonna get a kiss from me, but you're gonna get a kiss from my cat one day, who's laying right there. You can't see her, I can, and she's staring at me as she sleeps. But I appreciate it. Let me know what you guys think of Final Fantasy 13. Does it hold up? Does it not? Do you think I'm an idiot for thinking 10 is a lesser of a game? Let me know. Appreciate it. Bye.